Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Reganelite here with another Snowflakes Talks, and we have a guest that's returned again. One Angry Pagan has joined us for this evening. Good to see you, buddy. How are you doing this evening?
It's all good. It's all good. It's
Yeah.
nice. All the stormy weather's finally moved in. Although I must say, it's got nothing on what's going on in the southeast of America with the weather.
Oh, dear. And yeah, still representing the Badger, of course. Obviously, it was
All
your
hail.
All Hail the Badger. It was, of course, you that inspired Politics Social and Phil Morehouse to get behind the Badger more than anything. So, yes, very good. A nice one there. I'm just double checking the settings here. That everything looks like everything appears to be working there. Billy Keshaw, good to see you there. Stephen Banker, Jow, and Alistair Kidd, good to see you guys. Hope you're all doing well. So I said the first to start off, obviously, because we talked a little bit. Obviously, our last chat together, we talked a bit about yourself, Terry Regan. Good to see you, buddy. Hope you're doing well. What did you? I mean, obviously, there's a lot to discuss, but I wanted to get your insights because obviously you are a Labour member. What did you make of the Labour conference? What did you give us some of your thoughts about the Labour conference and how you feel it went? Given that there was obviously the shattering of other things that were around it, what did it feel like a celebration of some sorts that the Conservatives are gone, Labour in power, like change is coming? It's like there's a good feeling, shall we say, or is it just a case of okay, what's your feelings after that Labour conference?
It's a bit mixed, if I'm
Mm.
honest. I mean, on some levels, there is quite optimism going on. Obviously, you've got all this the gift crap, which I really don't care about. And the winter fuel stuff and people saying this is we're getting austerity and all that. But under the surface, there seems to be this quite optimism, and it's coming from many different areas. I mean, even though a lot of people who keep trying to bring up we need to go back into the EU, we need to rejoin the single market and customs union, and even though Labour are saying no, there are people are going, look, basically, like the way back is one to deal with the TCA, and two to actually get closer to Europe instead of continue. Because a lot of people seem to think we're at the same position now that we were at when we Brexited. No, we've diverged a fair bit. We need to come back. The Tories diverged us a fair bit. We need to come back now. Them having the red lines, I think, is a rhetoric tactic for negotiations. Now, people might think I'm naive about that, but this is the kind of gist I get when I talk to people with other members within the party. And I listen when I don't always agree with Phil Morehouse, different the bias, but I think I agree with him on this. That I mean, people were saying that the meeting with von der Leyen, oh, that's not going ahead because of Starmer's red lines. Well, it's going ahead next week, so I think that they are able to come to agreements on certain levels.
I just will say on that, obviously, because I was one of those people who didn't think, like, I thought von der Leyen wasn't in any way wanting to have a meeting because obviously that the previous Conservative government hadn't been inputting the deal that was obviously that was signed and agreed to, and it hasn't been fully implemented. And I thought that was one of the reasons why Ursula von der Leyen didn't want to. I initially thought that they were going to straight away have discussions, but it is a good sign that there is a conversation at least happening. I know I'm not expecting the world to happen with it, but the fact that Keir Starmer, Ursula von der Leyen were pictured talking in New York at the UN, that was a really good. That was a positive sign.
It was a really good sign. Really good
Yeah.
sign. I mean, I've been saying for ages that I'm not going to judge Labour in power until they've been in power for about a year to a year and a half, because I actually believe that that's actually fair. Not only because they've just come in, But there's the fact that Starmer included, many are novices to government. Many aren't. I will grant you that. Yvette Cooper and whatnot, and Ed Miliband. But there are many that are new to actually being in government. So I'm willing to give them a bit of leeway. And Madge put this to me last night. Would I have given Cameron the same leeway? Because he'd not been in government before either. And whilst I would have been dead against the austerity idea, I should have given him, like, on other levels, I still probably would have given him some leeway over a year to a year and a half to see exactly what kind of politician, what kind of prime minister he would have been. Just a shame I was ignorant about politics at that point.
Yeah, looking back at the Labour conference, I think one of the more positive things out of Labour and the conference, I think more than anyone, was the business secretary Jonathan Reynolds with some of the things that he was saying. I'm just going to put it up. Hopefully, I can just put it up for you guys who are watching with us live. I think I can just do that one here. On these workers' rights, I'll just read a little bit into it. So, at the heart of Labour's plans for the economy are a bigger shake-up of employment rights in a generation under the banner of a New Deal for working people. The party had promised in the general election campaign to announce its legislative plan within the first 100 days of power. Sources said it was likely to mean a date for October the 10th for the announcement. The proposals include banning exploitative zero-hour contracts and introducing day one employment protections. Now, I will say this, obviously, I did say that when we were reading the Labour manifesto, it did state that, and it never was a case of, like, I was very conscious about keeping zero-hour contracts. Because some people argue that it's beneficial to some people, some employers, some employees out there. I personally think it's a risk thing having a zero-hour contracts. I just think having a fixed number of hours just gives them that assurances that they're guaranteed something.
I think the details on this are illuminating, because the big thing for me about it is that it's going to be down. It's not going to be up to the employer about whether or not a 0-hour contract is given. It's going to be down to the employee to request that 0-hour contract in the first place. From what I gather, when it comes to 0-hour contracts, that's the big thing that Labour is changing. Like employers won't just be able to go, no, like, because that's been the exploitative side of it. Whereas there's been a lot of people that I know personally that work in the gig economy that for them it's fine. Like it works really well. But for other people that work in other sectors, it's a horrible thing to do. So making it so that it's only the employee that can request a 0-hour contract gives power to the employer. The employee gives to the worker. This is exactly what Labour is supposed to be about.
Yeah, I think, out of one of the biggest positives I think out of Labour's conference was the things that I think Jonathan Reynolds has been saying a lot of the right things when it comes to business and workers' rights. But there obviously is that caution because obviously a lot of businesses, and I think this is fair to say, and I'm sure people will agree with me, is that there's been a lot of businesses that have poured a lot of money into the Labour Party. There was, I think there's a story I got either coming out today or tomorrow about, like, there was so many business leaders and whatnot attending the Labour conference that they couldn't all get a time to talk to all the ministers and whatnot. Apparently, so because that's how many went, because obviously that's where the opportunities come. They're not going to get it from the Conservatives at their conference. So I do think that
is it. Obviously, there is the potential for worry there. I get that, but I don't know if anyone else watches this guy, but there's an American leftist I watch called Vorsh, and he considers himself a socialist, very on the left. But he himself has turned around and said that the left needs to reconcile itself with business, because otherwise we just are going to keep going around in the same self-destructive circle. wanting to get change, but when we get to a point where we can affect it, we just pick fights rather than trying to work with businesses to try and change how businesses work and stuff. One of the things that I've been learning is that businesses need security. They need to know what they need a good idea of what's going to be going on, rather than this up down changes here, there, left, right, and everywhere.
What I will say is this though, and I've made this point that Labour can't be, in my opinion, Labour can't be the party for business and the party of working people. I can't see. I mean, they can try to, but because either whatever side you do, you're not going to please anyone. Like, I think someone somewhere's going to get upset, isn't it? Trying to find it.
Yeah, but in a democracy, in a representative democracy like ours, right? Isn't it the point of government to take all of these factions that want? Because in any democracy, you have loads of different people want loads of different things.
Yeah,
and they all think they all have different ideas on how to run the country. The point of having the parliament and government in the way it's set out is that, and I now I used to think it was all ridiculous, and I still think a lot of it's ridiculous, but I do see some of the logic in it, because government can then be a centralizing point of bringing these different ideas together. Yeah, it's because you can't just. It's one thing to go, yeah, we're just going to ignore what business wants and do whatever the workers want.
Yeah,
but how is that going to? How exactly is that going to help? Because I mean, Marx himself admitted that capitalism, but businesses to have a place, it's just they need to be regulated properly. No,
yeah,
you've got
definitely businesses. I would say that right now, businesses have more power than employees. That's for sure, and it is about striking that balance. But
that's
it's where
what the Workers' Rights Bill was about, isn't it? So
yeah.
But that, the problem is that.
Thank you, Alistair Keir, by the way. I really appreciate that. It's very kind of you.
With the problem I find is with the business still make a lot of them are still voters. A lot of people, and the majority of businesses are small to medium enterprises.
Yeah,
not big conglomerates, not big corporations. Granted, we need to keep an eye on these big corporations, which is one of the reasons why Rachel Reeves is looking to cut a load of tax loopholes to which these massive corporations get away with and end up paying less tax than the guy down the local corner shop. So, there is from everything I'm hearing, it's very mixed, because, like I said, you've also there's a big rebellion still at the moment going on about the winter fuel payment, and I'm still mixed opinion on it.
Well, there were people there. I'm sure you've heard people unions there. Yeah, a lot, understandably, very upset, very frustrated, and including myself, I've expressed that an anger as well, because my personal opinion is that they did not need to do this.
Or at least they didn't have to do it this way.
I felt like the money could have. There's plenty of other ways where they could have raised the money for this.
But I look around here, and
not at the expense of pensioners.
There's pensioners getting this money who don't need it because
they're rich. That is 100% true. But I just want to make this point as well. Yeah, a couple of other points. So I do know one thing we do know is obviously pensioners aren't really. Not many pensioners are Labour supporters. The majority have always been Conservative, or they've switched to Reform because most of them read certain newspapers, shall we say.
Well, they have a very rose-tinted view of the past.
Yes, but there are some, obviously, who have been hardcore Labour supporters as well, who have voted Labour all their life. I think that's a very important point to make as well. And many of them will feel let down. Now, I said this yesterday. I said that I know many people ain't been taking the pension credit, but they should do something to make it more viable for, well, not just obviously to advertise pension credit, but make change the threshold for the pension credit to give more people the access to it. At least do that.
That's exactly what I
At
was going
least
to
do
bring up.
that. But they didn't. But they haven't even done that. Which
This is what I mean by it didn't have to be done this way. At the very least, it didn't have to be done in this way. I don't agree with again, I'm very mixed on opinion on this policy, but at the very least, they've done it terribly. For one, they should have done it as a part of a package of measures. That would have taken a lot of the limelight off this single measure. It might have taken a lot of the limelight off this single measure. And second, they didn't have to make the threshold for the wind fuel payments so low. That's the big one for me.
I do agree with Terry Regan that it didn't have to be done. I do agree with Terry that I don't think it had to be done at all. I just think there could have been other ways around it. Like, here's the thing, right? Here's the thing. At the moment, as of right now, before it's cut, it's universal, isn't it? Yeah. So it's universal, the system. But you're means testing it, and that's not free to do. That costs money and time to means test it as well. So there's obviously that, and they're consistent arguments, from Keir Starmer, from all the ministers. Every time they bring up about it, they all keep saying the same thing. We've got a 22 billion pound black hole, yada yada yada. Everyone's heard it 1,000 times. But but everyone screams there's tax the rich. There's other ways you can raise the money for this. Like,
wealth tax is unfeasible. Is unfeasible given the social climate right now. Like, I personally would want to see it. Me personally, I want to see a land tax, some kind of land tax.
I'm in favor of a land tax. Yeah, I'm in favor of a land tax.
It's not like taxes aren't going to be going up. The tax rates it's not like they won't be going up on the wealthy. They will be going up on the wealthy. The majority of these tax loopholes that Labour are going to cut are for the fucking wealthy. I'm sorry for swearing, but
you can swear here. Fine.
I ain't going. If Labour aren't going to do it, I'm going to do it. I'm going to beat this fucking drum hammer. And yes, it's not a specific wealth tax, right? But again, you're not just trying to please the left. They're not in there just to govern for the left. They're supposed to be in there to govern for the whole country. Yeah. And unfortunately, in a democracy, you have to compromise. You do. We might not like it. That's the reality. We do have to compromise at certain points.
Yeah, I just don't want anyone dying as a result of this decision.
I don't want any people dying as a result of this decision. Again, I think this has been at the very least done poorly. And if they raise the threshold to like 20,000, 25,000 instead of like 11,500, what it is now, that means that it's going to be more often that the more wealthy are going to be the ones not getting that winter fuel payment, whereas those that are under the 2025 or even 35. But I wouldn't have it down, so I wouldn't personally have put it so low.
I do. I just, I personally don't think they should have done it. That's just, me personally. And I think, yes, people on your side would say like they could have done it differently and whatnot. But I still think it is, to me, it's like, considering the cost, like, it just feels like the timing, the situation that everyone is in right now, like, people need something and they feel like they're not getting anything. And because everyone is all waiting for the budget. They're waiting to see what Rachel Reeves is going to do at the budget. And it's very infuriating. It was infuriating for a lot of businesses as well, because obviously many of them were just getting the same statements and comments over and over when they went to the conference as well, because they couldn't know what, they don't know specifically what, they know some things that Labour are planning, obviously, but a lot of things are shrouded in mystery because they don't know what's going to be coming in the budget, apart from, some tough choices.
It didn't kick off this much under the fucking Tories.
No, that's true.
But I'm sorry, but this is double. I'm going to call out double standards here, because there was nowhere near this much noise when it was the Tories.
There's also another important caveat as well, though, and that is businesses were betrayed by the Conservatives because of how they handled Brexit, and they kept chopping and changing things, which was hurting a lot of businesses. They broke the trust of businesses.
To make closer relations with Europe, which is a thing that a lot of businesses have been going, yeah, we like this. Not only is it good for the business, it's also good for the workers. Like bringing us closer back to the EU in whatever way they can align us. Like aligning us back with the EU in all sorts of different ways is good for not just the businesses. The businesses want this by and large, and this will be good for the workers as well.
Yeah, they're really not. They're really not saying. They're really not like publicly that. Publicly, they are. I mean, obviously on Brexit, publicly they're just like saying shooting it all down. But like I don't like like Phil Morehouse keeps saying like they are still going to do it. It's just going to be down the road, and it's just like. So, are you saying all the main like are you implying that all the mainstream media are wrong when they say that that Labour keeps saying when they're not going to introduce this EU youth mobility scheme, they are going to bring it. It's just a case of when, not if.
To be fair, mate, our media has been wrong plenty of times.
Yeah, that's true. But it's just when multiple media, obviously, when one outlet says one story, but it's when multiple outlets saying the same thing.
Yeah, but like again, we're talking about a party that's only just come in. Like if Labour had been in power for the last 5 years, then like I would be a bit more. I would be just as irate. But they haven't. They've been in less than 3 months, or just over 3 months, whatever it is now. Like I feel it's a little bit unreasonable to go hell for leather on judgments until, again, by the scientific method, you actually get all of the evidence, rather than making your judgment and try and make the evidence fit your judgment, because that's confirmation bias. That's what problem I have with so many of my fellows on the left. I am a socialist. I'm a pragmatic socialist. There's a lot of more further left things I want done, but I recognise not everyone in the country agrees with me that those are the most important things that need to be done. So I have to be pragmatic. This is it. People don't like this because it's like, no, you should hold to your principles. And it's like, that's absolutism. Again, in the real world, more often than not, you do have to compromise just a bit. You have to for a start, you need to understand other people's positions. But this is why I think politics has been good for me anyway. It's helped me understand other people's positions when it comes, because to be able to effectively give a cogent argument to a ridiculous idea, it's best if you know what they're on about. So I've tried as much as possible to understand the motivations of the right wing, and that's why so often I just brush them off, because it's just most of what they're after is a distraction from the biggest issues.
What did you make of Keir Starmer's speech?
Just like the rest of the conference, mixed. I think there was areas where he was strong. I liked how whilst he said yes, so there's some tough times to come. We've done this, we've done that, we're already pushing through this. You know, instead, because the last few speeches he's done, like he barely mentions those things, whereas this time, like he made sure to properly mention these things that they're coming in, and he also made mention to say that this is a long-term project. People keep forgetting this is a long-term project. This isn't like, if you're expecting us to come in and fix things straight away, this wasn't going to happen. We warned you about this. This is the general gist I got for a lot of the speech, but there are other parts that are weaker, and I think the Israel bit was, I mean, yeah, like we want an immediate ceasefire in Israel. But I gather that you know, some parts are still being sent to Israel. Some weapons parts are still being sent to Israel. I think we should just abandon Israel to its fate until they can learn to be not so bloody right wing and warmongery. I'm sorry to anyone from Israel that isn't so right wing and warmongery, but from what I can gather by the polls, a substantial majority of the population in Israel have actually started to back Bibi Netanyahu again. Have you seen that? The polls have
Yeah,
started.
I
To go
talked
back
about that
forward.
yesterday as well.
That's,
Yeah, we'll come to
the
we'll talk
hypocrisy.
we'll talk if
Hypocrisy
we
on
we'll talk a bit
start.
about it later. We'll talk a bit about it later. But just
The-
going
the-
back to the
There is
speech.
some, yeah. That there was some hypocrisy where it was like, oh, mate, like if you're gonna do that, like you gotta substantiate it more. And then that kid come out and started protesting. It's like, what were you doing? What effect did you think you were gonna make? You made no material difference to what was going on. What do you expect Starmer to just like march the UK army in there and tell Israel to stop? Not gonna fucking happen, mate. Even if we stopped our arms sales, all of them, to Israel, we make up a small amount of arms that go to Israel. Even though we do
David
send,
Lammy said it was one. Well, according to David Lammy, he said it was 1%, which I don't think is. I don't think it's 1%.
I think it's more like 7 to 9%.
That's what he stated in the House of Commons when he
But,
answered
like,
Jeremy Corbyn's question on it.
But it was like, even so, we like compared to to what America and other nations give them, it's nothing. So again, what does he expect them to do? What the power that Britain has, which is waning because of Brexit, but that it somewhat still has, is soft power. That's all we've got, and that means diplomacy. Now, again, whilst me personally think that we should just abandon Israel to its fate until it can stop being stupid and right wing and ignorant and hateful, my practical side of me is saying that what he wants to do is be there as, or is what Starmer and Lammy want to do is when this finally does, when the fighting does get to a point where they can't actually fight, they realize they can't, that no one's going to win this, that Britain can be there to help broker a peace of some sort. But sending them weapons, or weapons parts, I should say, I gather that's on a larger scale thing because of Iran. Now, me personally, that's Israel's own fault. They've been the antagonists here. But on a geopolitical level and a more practical level, I get where they're coming from on that, because on some level there's this threat from Iran. But again, me personally, I think that we should just abandon Israel until it can stop being ignorant and hateful.
Yeah, let's come back to Starmer's speech. So I'll just highlight a couple of things I was mentioning that he mentioned in the speech for those who didn't watch it, and that's totally fine. I did watch the full speech. I did. So he mentioned about pylons and prisons. He said there'll be tough decisions, short term, long term, right thing to do for the country. He said there'll be light at the end of the tunnel. That make what you will of that. I don't like that he coined the phrase "we're all in it together" from George Osborne. That was not a very good thing from him. He did, obviously, after he said that, he did obviously say that they've heard it before and they've been let down again, which I think, I think the way it came across that bit after was trying to tell people that you've heard it all before, but we're not the conservatives, is what he's basically trying to say.
Could it be? I had thought this myself. Could it possibly be? I mean, there's been many, like the Scots have said that we English need to retake the narrative on nationalism, because in England we can't do English independence because that's currently the narrative over that is owned by the far right. But what's been told to me is that we need to retake that narrative, and in the same context here, and in direct comparison, it could possibly be that he's wanting to use these to take back the narrative and make it so that when a government does say that we are all in this together, that they actually do mean it, and that this isn't just driving us down into a poorer state. Do I 100% trust it? No, but I don't trust 100% any politician, and if anyone ever does, then that's on them for when they get disappointed.
So other things he said in the speech: if we want cheaper electricity, we need new pylons overground. I generally think he said that because that's not like something pylons overground is something. It's like something people would pay attention to. I generally think that was just to take a swipe at Adrian Ramsey, the Green co-leader. I generally think that's what it was. It wasn't. I think that's the only reason why he put that in there, just to take a swipe at him, even though that's not what like
Adrian Ramsey like doesn't understand. He's like, oh, but we could do underground, but that would actually cost more to do.
Because that was the point I made at the time when he made the. I said the thing that the only reason why is like the only reason why I would say like the argument point that he was making wasn't that he isn't against it. He was just wanting to have other alternative means. Is that we should have a bit more of a detailed discussion about this rather than just building massive overland pylons. This is what that was his argument. But obviously my counter argument when I talked about it in my video was, of course, well, they want to do Labour want to do the cheapest option. That's what I think they would. I think that's what it pretty much is.
There's also the fact that they needed to get on it right away. They want. This is one like I've spoken, and Big Madge, who was saying last night, he's still rather jealous of me for this. But being a Labour member, I get to have Zoom meetings.
I don't think Big Madge is jealous of you. I'm just gonna.
Oh no. On this one, he's actually told me he's a bit jealous because I got to talk to Ed Miliband. And he likes it. Ed Miliband is one Labour MP that Big Madge actually does like genuinely.
He is the one that should have become the Labour leader. He should have been.
But like in any case, like with Ed, he said to me personally that like as soon as they come in, they're wanting to be getting on with connecting, not just with the green energy side of things, but actually connecting up Britain electronically, because it's even down here in Devon, there are many places that because it's in the country, because it's in it's in the countryside, the connections can be a bit skew with. So they want more solid connections, and it especially in a rougher weather area where the ground gets really soggy. Underwater cables have been proven to be a bit risky down here as well. So again, using pylons and stuff to connect us up, electrify the country more is good. They want to do this straight away, so they couldn't just go straight into this with doing the underground stuff. They could. The reason why they're going straight into it with the overground pylons is because that's one. It's yes, you're right. It's the cheapest, but it's the easiest one to do straight away.
Right, yeah, I mean, personally, if it was up to me, if we had the time and the money, I would put it all underground just for people to stop moaning about that or not in my backyard premise thing.
I must say, the other issue with underground is we don't pay attention to the underground animals.
Oh yeah, you got to take accountability, wildlife, and everything because you're digging it all.
You've got moles, you've got the badger. Yeah, they will actually be affected by the electromagnetic current going through these wires. Like it's mostly insulated, but it's not entirely insulated by these wires, by the plastic, the rubber and plastic that surrounds the wire, and it can cause problems for subterranean animals as well. So being a green MP, I'm surprised the leader of the Greens doesn't take more of this on board. But well,
I'm not gonna. I've said my point. I don't agree with what he said about it, but I still think his heart's in the right place on it. But that's
in the right place. The Greens are saying that they want more rail, or they want more trains, but they don't want more railways, and it's like we're going to need at least a few more actual railway tracks to fit more trains on.
Well, that's going to be investment, isn't it? And speaking of railways, there's obviously the railway service bill, which is bringing our railways back into public ownership. This is something that I think everyone's in agreement with. It's going to take time, but I do think,
the next thing that needs to be nationalised is the rolling stock. We've got we're getting away from the franchise system, which is good. Bringing all bringing most of it under national ownership, with the private companies just doing the management of it. And they'll probably it's possible that they could just phase that out over time. But for Mick Lynch has made it known over and over again that we need to renationalise the rolling stock as well. So that's the next one on in the sights for Mick Lynch and the RMT.
Hello, Ange, and anybody else who's joined in the chat. If we haven't said hello to everyone, I do apologise. Obviously, we're talking to each other. We will come to. We will actually talk about Go being in charge of spectator. I actually got a piece on that. We'll talk. We'll save it for that. I just want to finish a bit more on the Labour conference. I know you want to rant on it because I want to give my piece too on it. Just obviously is the other thing as well. The Home for Heroes thing, Keir's announced a new policy to give homelessness veterans better access to the housing waiting list, pledging to repay those who put their lives on the line to help protect us all.
Good.
The number of veterans with sleeping rough was a hidden injustice, Keir said. Now, we have to make something very, very clear here. Dave McGinn, it's good to see you there in the chat as well. Hope you're doing well. And anyone else as well, if I haven't said hello to you, I do apologise. I do try to say hello to everyone. I will say this, obviously, before you speak your piece on this. We have to remember that while it's great that veterans get a priority on the list, and that shouldn't be a debate in any way, shape, or form. We still obviously have an issue where we just don't have enough homes for anyone, let alone just veterans or people with families or single mothers or children as well. So that's obviously tied into the housing crisis. Obviously, and it's not just a case of building new homes, it's about dealing with the homes that we have now. So this, while it sounds good on paper, it's something that's going to take a long time for Labour to deal with. Not just homeless veterans, but homelessness in general, if they want to get on top of this.
But it's going to take a long time to deal with that anyway. I do keep hearing this a lot. But it's going to take a long time. It's going to take a long time for this. Of course, it's going to take a long time. The Tories fucking broke it to that point.
Yeah, but the problem is people don't have patience, Pagan. That's the problem.
But I will consistently badger this point in that it is nearly always quicker to break something than it is to fix it. I cannot repeat that often enough. And people seem to forget this. And people seem to have forgotten just how much the Tories have broken. Now, are Labour going to get it all right? I doubt it. But do I think that they're going to make an actual valid effort at trying to fix the country? Yeah, I actually do. And I think homes for veterans was one, for me anyway, is personal because I've got family members who are military veterans. And at some point, they've spent some time homeless, or friends who've spent many times homeless, and they've been in the army. And the Tories consistently, over and over again, we'll sort you this out, we'll sort you that out. I mean, true, I want to see more detailed plans for this. I mean, this is the first I've heard of it, but I mean, when it comes to housing, some of the discussions that I've been hearing is restricting second home ownership in this country. This is something that's been talked about at conference from between members and the MPs. And if this is being talked about at the conference, I can see this being this is going to be something that Labour MPs are going to be badgering. Not Yvette Cooper, the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves. They're going to be badgering her about this one, because this was being talked about, as far as I'm aware, before the election as well, which was this banning, well, not banning, but restriction of second home ownership, because there is a ridiculous amount of homes being taken up, and not being used because they're under second homes.
Yeah, we have a lot of houses that are empty that are owned by not just obviously millionaires and that, but landlords as well. Some landlords and property developer and owners who have these properties that sit there empty, and basically we need them. We need them for a lot of people. So there is an imbalance there. That is for sure when it comes to houses.
I heard whispers. I didn't hear Starmer talk about this in the speech, but he has mentioned this a few times, and I heard whispers about this around from people who were at the conference about the new working they're trying to work with councils and businesses, building businesses, to work on new towns and trying to work on infrastructure, which is why I gather one of the ways they're looking to
100% Stephen Banker. 100%.
Yes, Stephen.
100%.
But a lot of capital, there's a lot of talk of capital investment, and Reeves not having to break her own fiscal rules and just reinterpret them so as that capital investment, borrowing for capital investment doesn't actually have to come under the bracket of borrowing, because what she specifically said was borrowing for day to day. So if you're borrowing for capital, it could be that she does reinterpret that. I've been hearing a bunch of people talking about that who've been at the conference. There was a little bit about trying to fix our relationship with Europe in his speech, and that would lead me really onto the thing I watched was Politics Social on Monday. And you had Graham Hughes, you had Femi, you had Mike Goldsworthy, and another guy I can't quite remember, and I think it was an ex-MP that turned up as well. And apparently,
Mike's a really good. He's a really on the ball guy. He's very, very smart. Daily Blase, good to see you then, chat. Guys, if you're not subscribed to Daily Blase, do subscribe to his channel, youtube.com/Daily Blase. He has also been here on the Snowflake Talks as well. We'll definitely get you back on again in the future, my friend. And by the way, he'll be going live. He normally goes live tomorrow every Friday at 6 p.m. So if you guys got nothing planned at 6 p.m., if you're just getting home from work and you're about to have dinner, then pop on a Daily Blase for some Friday frolic. Is it frolic? Something.
Friday frolics.
Thank you. There you go. So, do check out Daily Blase when he goes live, guys. It's absolutely fun stuff. And I will be there this time because I keep missing them. This time I will. But obviously, I've got my own live stream later on. Obviously, I need to do as well. But, I'll just finally on speech, start with speech before we move away on it, because because obviously it was brought up a bit earlier about the Michael Gove and that spectator thing, which we'll rip apart in a moment. But I don't like gaffs are like some normal thing.
Sausage, yeah.
I mean, but it is hilarious. It is hilarious. It is a bit embarrassing. Apparently, this was put in the speech. Apparently, I'm hearing from people. Did you actually hear from people there that said that was actually written in the actual speech and nobody just noticed it? Or
from what I gather, it was put on the auto reader, and it being such a busy, and not only that, but later on that day he was having to go to the NATO, not NATO.
Later on he had to travel to New York for the UN.
UN, that's it. So I have a feeling like, when you read when you're reading something and you just automatically read the words that's there without paying attention, especially when you got like so much on your mind. Yeah, I reckon that's what happened to Stormy yesterday.
I find it hilarious that was actually put on the teleprompter. I thought that was just like, I mean,
must be rescued.
Rescue the sausages, just like, dear, oh dear. But I mean, it'll be interesting, obviously, to see in a year's time, like what's happened since then. Like you said, we have to give Labour the benefit of the doubt. Time will tell. I totally and completely understand the criticisms of Labour, but I can also understand. Why people are. Their positions are where they are on Labour as well. But I do try to be balanced. It's hard for me to try to be balanced, but I do try to be as balanced as I possibly can on it, guys. But let's move away from the Labour conference and a story that I actually haven't got on my banners, but I did have the article here, and this once again emphasizes just how messed up our mainstream media is here. Michael Gove was named as the Spectator's editor after GB News backers takeover. The former Tory minister is to take the reins at the magazine, bought recently by Paul Marshall, with Charles Moore as chair. For those who don't know, Paul Marshall is the owner of the owner of GB News, amongst many other things. Apparently, Michael Gove, the guy who snorts coke, the guy who says a lot of things and doesn't realize what he's doing. Yeah, this guy is going to be in charge of the Spectator. Pagan, I know you want to stop. Go on.
Just imagine him sat there, in his top seat, gurning like, oh my God, I got the power. Look at me. Boris can fuck himself. Like Boris was only a writer. He was only a writer in the magazine. I know, I'm the editor. It's like, yeah. Anyway, this is disgusting, man. I mean, on one level, it's expected. I would have, on one level, I kind of expect this from a right-wing paper for a right-winger from the Tory party or somewhere else to get in there. But Gove, of all people, the man who said we should not listen to experts, and as someone who loves science, that offends me deeply. That man,
he's not an expert, so he's someone we can listen to. That's the point, Pagan.
Like, I wasn't even into politics when I first heard him say that. Because of my science background, that offended me deeply. And this is why you get so many people like going up. What's the betting that in the Spectator you're going to see a lot more of anti-experts, and when people talk about climate change, you don't have to listen to these people, they're experts. Fucking hate this person.
By accepting the role, Gove has fulfilled a lifelong ambition, having first declared his ambition to edit the Spectator during class when he was 7 years old in his hometown of Aberdeen.
I bet the Scots feel really disgusted that
they must be so proud in the chat of that one.
Like the Scots must do, like they must have disowned him. Like, I can't see them not have disowned him. Like, he doesn't even sound Scottish. Like, he disowned his own fucking nation as well. But you listen to him, he's got a fucking posh English accent.
Gove has been given approval on the advisory committee on business appointments to scrutinise any job taken by an ex-minister with 2 years of leaving government, on the condition that he does not lobby government on the magazine's behalf. A spokesperson for Gove declined to comment.
Shock.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. Like, here's the thing. I could just see someone else doing it someone else will just write a piece on his behalf, but everyone will say, but you signed it off. Oh, I guess I did sign it off.
Oh no, he's taken. No, Boris Johnson did have this role, so now he's like, I've got the seat now, Boris. Fucking coked off his.
Former Prime Minister Liz Truss described him as that snake after he was undermined for a brief 45-day tenure, saying he would not vote for her budget when it would be put before Parliament. So even Liz Truss has obviously said things about it, and that's coming from the letters, obviously, there. But it's perfectly suited to the role with a post on X on Wednesday announcing the appointment.
What I mean, if from a right winger's position, yeah, that's true, because he managed to convince a whole lot of people that weren't actually that wouldn't have ordinarily agreed with him not to listen to experts. I hate to bully this point, but like, he really got to me, Michael Gove, and I do not like him. And the reforms he did with the education, I just wish that he could end up like Boris Johnson. And when do we hear of Boris Johnson anymore? Never. I want that to be Michael Gove.
Someone wants me to get the Gove dance video.
He's put on his twat and he's just dancing. Oh,
this better be worth it. So, someone give me some super chat gifting memberships for this. I'm doing this. I'm going out on a limb for you guys on this one.
I think the Angie Rayner clip is better. She can definitely throw some moves.
There you go. There you go. I don't know if you can. I can't put the sound on, obviously, guys. You know, but there you go. You wanted to see Michael Gove dance. Oh dear, oh
And
dear.
what is he
This is
doing?
his reaction to be the editor of the Spectator. You know, his dream job, guys. It
You know what
wasn't to
this
become
reminds me
prime
of, don't you?
minister.
Do you remember the film Human Traffic?
Yes,
And you got that
I do
guy,
remember that film.
you got that bit where there's a reporter that's gone to the nightclub, and he's in the middle of chat saying how this thing's going, and then he loses it and starts like throwing shapes. And that's what he reminds me of. Oh,
This is in
dear.
this is in Aberdeen Club, by the way, as well, guys. Just so you know, this isn't in England. This is in Aberdeen, apparently. And
how could they not recognize him and just? Oh,
well, not everyone. You have to understand as well that not everyone is into politics, and not everyone knows like. Oh, don't worry, Mad Monk. I'm going to ask all shorts for that at some point. I keep. Thanks for reminding me of that. Actually, he's going to hate me if I ever get that clip. He will. Oh no, in fact, I was joking, Alistair. I was joking. You didn't have to, honestly. Thank you so much for the £5 super chat. You didn't have to super chat. I'm just joking, buddy. I really am. You didn't have to do that. But, honestly, you didn't. Yeah. So obviously, is the Spectator is going to be even more right wing than before. There'll obviously probably be a more favoritism to. I wonder what they're going to be like towards reform. I imagine there'll be a softball to them. Obviously, they're going to rip Labour apart whenever they get the opportunity to. Yeah, there'll probably be a bit softball when it comes to them.
Maybe
So,
I know that Michael Gove had spoken out against Nigel Farage before.
Yeah,
like I hear they're not exactly friends, so that might be interesting. Actually, that might possibly be somewhat interesting if it is true from what I heard that Gove has spoken out against Farage and doesn't really like Farage.
Who is the deputy editor? Nadine Dorris. Good. No, it has to be Boris Johnson and Nadine Dorris. That's how it's got to be. Unless it's Boris Johnson, she won't get that close. She won't get that close.
I wonder if the reason why Dorries never got away with Boris is because Carrie was already onto her. Like Carrie's already been in Doris's position, isn't she? So she's she's already on the lookout. Like, you're not stealing my husband. I stole him away from his last missus. You're not fucking doing it to me.
All right. So before I do want to talk about one serious topic that happened today, guys, as well, and that was the COVID inquiry is still taking on, guys. We will come to that shortly because obviously there was myself and Pagan have seen some of the footage from it, and I think it's really worth reminding and talking about that. If you haven't heard about it, we'll come to it shortly. But before we do, this one story, obviously, we wanted to talk about, and that is climate change. And I think this one's quite I must have missed this one out when I was covering news. Was it last week or 2 weeks ago? So David Lammy had said a couple of weeks back that climate change is more urgent threat than terrorism or Putin. And the Foreign Secretary said that tackling the global warming crisis will also boost economic growth for the UK, as he compares risks to the Russian president who threatens war with NATO.
Bang on. He's bang on this.
So he warns that climate change is a more urgent threat. Given the volatility of what's happening on the planet, why would you say, Pagan, if someone was to say to you, why is terrorism and the war and that is not as big as climate change? So if someone was to argue that point to you,
think about a lot of the reasons why a number of these wars taking place, especially in Africa. Yeah, the water shortages and resource shortages all over Africa, and where a lot of land is becoming a lot more inhospitable, land that is hospitable is becoming more crowded, especially in places that have no way of preparing for this. So climate change is actually a factor of driving these wars in the first place. And not only that, but it'll make these wars it could very well make these wars a hell of a lot worse.
Is it not that?
With Central Europe, it does have extreme weather every now and again, but it's becoming a lot more common. And if that moves a little bit further eastwards towards Ukraine and eastern Russia, that just makes the war there even worse. So, yes, these problems are bad, but for the majority part, this is that's us kind of being egotistical as a species. The picture is a lot bigger than that. This is why climate change is a much bigger problem than Putin, China, terrorism, or anything like that. The reason is because half the time it's because climate change is actually driving these problems or is exacerbating these problems. And then making a whole load of more, because it causes economic problems when more and more droughts hit. Again, we'll go to Africa. More and more droughts hit in Africa. This is killing a lot more farmland.
Well, there's actually more floods than droughts at the moment. Obviously, I think in
well, it depends where you are.
Sudan had a lot of a lot of countries along that part of the continent. I think Somalia had some as well. Kenya had, I think Kenya as well. There were quite a few African nations had quite a lot of drought, floods recently.
You look down the west coast of Africa, and especially with Namibia, like the desertification of Namibia has not stopped. That's not been abated. That's keeping on going. I was watching a thing earlier about Gabon. They're helping Russia with a shadow fleet of getting oil to them to get around the sanctions. But a large part of the reason why they're wanting to deal a lot more with Russia is because they're struggling so much in their own country because climate change is making so much farming, the basic farming and just living a lot harder and harder.
Yeah.
With more extreme material conditions comes more extreme behaviors from people. This is why climate change is the big picture problem. We won't be able to solve it. We won't be able to reverse it. We need to learn to adapt and at the very least in certain places mitigate the issues of climate change, which we can start doing immediately if the willpower was there.
Yeah, I've always said it's down to international cooperation, working together on the international communities. It's not just a case of it's not enough for obviously for protesting and for the public. It's really down to changing governments' minds over this. But we also know that there's a great deal of corruption and influence coming from the oil, the gas corporations that have huge sway on some of the biggest nations on the planet, and it's trying to overpower them and trying to out influence them because they are trying very hard to propaganda, pumping money into lots of think tanks and whatnot to try and dismiss as much as they possibly can the need of it.
They can do that all they want, but the trend is already it's already going against them, and two, they're relying on a finite resource. They are no matter what they try, they're still going to lose because what they're relying on is a finite resource. Unless they start trying to push themselves out further into space to, try and find this stuff in space, I don't know what you're going to do. You're not going to find fossil fuels in space, are you?
Well, I think if they had the opportunity to drill, if they found if they had the opportunity to drill oil, all the gas out of Mars, for example, or if there was oil deep in the planet, I think they would take it in a heartbeat because obviously it's money. But it's money now. But there is obviously that question about, how much, as we transition as a species, because we're supposed to be transitioning, how much reliance is there going to be on oil and gas? And this is the thing. There's been there has been this counter argument about electric cars, for example, that the lithium that we get, that we dig up out of the ground, like, is that not damn bad for the climate? And I think that is in a
not the climate. Not the climate, the environment.
Environment, sorry, is the right word. Thank you. But I do think that is in turn is damaging. But the thing for me is that the difference is between that and oil and gas is the emissions that gets pumped out into the planet.
This is where there are many explorations going on where lithium deposits can be found, because as it turns out, lithium deposits can turn up in all sorts of different places. There's a place in the Pacific, I think, where there's these little round balls, lithium, they're full of lithium, but they're releasing carbon dioxide into the water, which is actually helping, and actually helps to oxidize the water, but weirdly, and it actually helps to create an area of life. Now, a few years back, a stretch of this was strip mined, and the biodiversity in the area went down. So, they're looking for lithium in different places. It seems that where there are quarries that are more inland, this seems like
mainly in Africa, isn't there? Most lithium.
Yeah, but it seems that there's a fair amount of it in.
Do you want to European nations have it as well?
European nations do have it. There's a couple of Central European nations that have some rich deposits of lithium, and if it's coming from mainland, yes, there's still some environmental damage there, but given that we need to find a way to transition, this is where I think space travel is also somewhat important, because if given there's only a finite amount of resources on our own planet, a lot of the resources, and if we're going to if the population rate is going to continue to climb, because without a world war or a major we just had a pandemic, but wasn't as bad as it might have been. If we actually had a proper Spanish flu level pandemic, levels of deadliness, then I reckon it's gonna Portugal as well with the lithium. But like, the population levels mean that if they don't come down, we're gonna have to look elsewhere for our materials. And if it's possible to look on the moon or on asteroids for lithium deposits, that means we don't have to destroy the environment here on Earth. And if we can find more efficient ways to get into space,
I'll just point out some of the countries that has the most. So the most is Australia, has the most, produces the most. Chile, then China, Argentina, Brazil, Zimbabwe, Canada, and as Jao says, Portugal there. So in the terms of the top ones who produce the most,
I mean, Australia's an ally, so
yeah, quite a few South American nations there have it as well. So that's quite interesting, to say the least. But yeah, Portugal obviously is definitely one of their.
It's finding a way to bring
fortunate to have that resource. Yeah,
it's finding a way to get to the resources without doing so much damage to the environment. And again, I'll just state, there are experiments and projects going on all the time, all over the world, in trying to find more efficient, less destructive ways of mining. These are things that are actually happening. I've been told it's bullcrap. No, it isn't. This is something that's constantly being looked at, because not only does it help us in the long run and the environment, but it also helps the greedy assholes anyway, because if they've got more efficient ways of mining that are, they're less energy efficient and less destructive, meaning they're not going to get half as many issues. And if it's also cost efficient too, then they're going to go. Then doing this R&D when it comes to the efficiency of mining, I think has some good aspect. I think that people should look more into this.
Yeah, I definitely. I mean, it's one of many resources, and there's definitely we need to push for these alternatives. Now, it was interesting actually. I was watching. I can't remember who it was, but basically, the argument for nuclear, making the argument for nuclear power, because one of the arguments they said, if we want to, here in particular in the UK, and I'm someone who's not in favor of nuclear personally, but the argument what people are saying is that it's going to take a long time for the UK to stop being reliant on oil and gas, especially in our situation. And it's not just a case of just switching from, like, can't just cover it from wind and solar. And that's why they say, that's why some people have argued the point of having nuclear as an alternative, because even though it has its faults, what it doesn't do is it doesn't cause emissions, the CO2 emissions. But there's always that risk, though. To me, there's always that risk.
I think a lot of people, too many people, think when they think of nuclear reactors, they think of Chernobyl, and they think of Fukushima. And yes, I say Chernobyl like that because that's how Ukrainian says it, not how Russia says it. And where is it? In Ukraine. So I'm saying Chernobyl, not Chernobyl. And what people don't realize is the SMRs, the small modular reactors, are one, more efficient, and two, 50 times more safe. They're not like these 40, 50-year-old reactors that, are constantly needing maintenance because they're so bloody old. No, these are modern things. And got to admit, China is pushing a long way ahead when it comes to SMRs. But we got, it's not like we've not caught on to it ourselves. And I do think there is some space for small modular reactors, especially when it comes to powering towns, at least in the short to mediate term. And I would be less favorable if it was just talking about big reactors, the classic nuclear reactor. But if we're talking about SMRs, I think there is some space for nuance. I do believe there is some space for nuance. Again, when you given the practicalities. Now, it's not just solar and wind, obviously. We've got there's geothermal, and given we're an island, hydropower. Like, we're an island. Tidal energy. We need to put more research into this. There's a like I said before, there's a few projects going on at the moment for tidal energy. There's at least one. There's at least two on the south coast, and I know of at least one in Scotland, and I definitely know there's one in the Mersey, in around Liverpool, in the Mersey River, because it's a very tidal river, that one, very tidal channel, that one. So yeah, like tidal is another one, but like in the meantime, if we're gonna bring ourselves fully off of gas and oil, then given the population size, until we can bring the renewables up to a sufficient degree, then yeah, I reckon small to medium modular reactors would be a good halfway house. If you're talking about building these massive reactors, I'm not so on board with that. I'm not on board with that. But am I against nuclear energy as in an absolute? Not necessarily. Because again,
I say it depends, obviously, and as you said, just small modular reactors there. Interesting. I'm not gonna lie, guys. I'm still kind of on the fence about it, but at the same time, it's like we do need to make the transition out of oil and gas as much as we possibly can. But I also do blame the 14 years, because we have been very, very slow on it as well, which has not helped our situation at all.
Labour getting rid of the effective ban for onshore wind straight away as well. Brilliant.
Yeah, there should be no. Wasn't there a stupid tax? Wasn't there that the Conservatives put on the wind and solar, which was just like what the
you can thank for that, Michael Gove.
Just absolute pointless, that one, guys. Absolute pointless. Just a reminder, guys, just before we go to the next topic, if you haven't already, please hit the like button because it'd be greatly appreciated. Share it across social media. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please consider doing so. And also do check out One Angry Pagan's YouTube channel. Link for that is in the description as well. And if you want to go one step further, financially support me and the work that I do on my channel, you can do so by becoming a YouTube member for just 99p. As Sakir was already kind enough to gift 20 memberships earlier today. So thank you so much for that. It was very, very kind of you. But yeah, you get access to lots of perks and custom emojis. And also you get early access to additional content as well. So you get a lot of perks for being a 99p member, guys. So thank you to anyone who is a member. It's greatly appreciated. So... So today, guys, there was obviously the COVID-19 inquiry is still continuing on, guys. I'm gonna see if I can at least play the first clip here for you guys. So Professor Kevin Frog was giving the most devastating and moving testimony to the COVID inquiry of visiting the hospital in intensive care units at the height of the second wave in late December 2020. I'm gonna see if I can get the audio tab up for you guys for it. I should be able to. Just bear with me. Just want to make sure when I play it that you guys can hear it. Pagan, just give me a thumbs up if you can definitely hear the sound when I play it. If you guys can't hear it, let me know, because it did say the sound is on as well. So the unimaginable scale of death, trauma, and loss of hope. This is a 2-minute clip of it, guys.
It's one of those things that is really very difficult to capture in figures. The scale of death experienced by the intensive care teams during COVID was unlike anything they had ever seen before. They're no strangers to death. They are the intensive care unit. They look after some of the sickest patients in the hospital. But the scale of death was truly, truly astounding. I went into this and other hospitals where they said it would be routine to see 3 to 5 deaths a day. I worked on a shift where we had 6 deaths in a single shift. Another hospital told us that they had 10 deaths in the shift, 2 of whom were their own staff. We had nurses talking about patients raining from the sky, where the nurses said that one of the nurses told me that they just got tired of putting people in body bags. Now, the hospital, where they said that sometimes they were so overwhelmed that they were putting patients in body bags, lifting them from the bed, putting them on the floor, putting another patient in that bed straight away because there wasn't time. We went to another unit where things got so bad, they were so short of resource, they ran out of body bags, and they were instead issued with 9-foot clear plastic sacks and cable ties. And those nurses talk about being really traumatized by that because they had recurring nightmares about feeling like they were just throwing bodies away. These people are used to seeing death, but not on that scale and not like that. And whatever the figures show you, the experience for them was indescribable. And when we talk about capacity in healthcare systems, the toll on those teams from that scale, and it really was like nothing else I have ever seen, and certainly not like nothing else those teams had ever seen.
There's more. If you guys want me to play more, do so. But obviously, Pagan, I sent this to you earlier. What was what's your reaction to what you heard?
It's just, you hear about this kind of thing in war, but to hear about it so close to home and not be to do with war is beyond our society's ken at the moment, beyond our society's knowledge, given that we've not had to suffer as a population like that for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of pandemics, like it's beyond a lot of people's living memory.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, my brother's missus worked at Exeter Wanford Hospital, and I mean, she was telling him that it wasn't as bad down here because Devon's not as populous, but she'd never seen so many people die. I mean, she'd say it was bad enough with heat waves in this country. It was like that's when we usually see when we see a lot of marked rise in deaths all of a sudden, and it affects people like this. But at such a never at such a level like this.
Yeah.
I have so much respect for everyone who is in the NHS making an effort to try and deal with a horrific situation that the Tories did literally less than nothing, because they made it worse. They made it worse for those people trying to deal with it.
I'm not gonna play the rest of the clips, but I'm just gonna show you the things that he said. I'm not gonna play them, guys, but more where he breaks down, explaining the absolute trauma experienced by smaller hospitals, in particular the healthier ICU patients were transferred out, leaving them coping with so much death. They felt so alone. He also explains how every nurse was traumatized by watching patients die, being only able to hold up iPads to their relatives, and how it went against the normal practice of trying to ensure a dignified death with families there. Smaller hospitals in particular ran out of drugs, equipment, nurses, PPE. They felt abandoned. There is zero doubt that the NHS was overwhelmed during both of the first two waves. By June 2021, the ICU staff described themselves as broken. Towards the end of his testimony, Professor Fong made the heartfelt case that to understand the COVID impact on the NHS, you have to go beyond the data. There is more to know that you can count. His testimony is so important. Yeah, I know one or two of you guys, it's a bit too much.
It's one of those things that is really very difficult to.
No. We don't want to hear it again.
I mean,
but if just for reference, guys, if you want to hear the rest of the clips, I did post it on Discord, the tweet, and obviously under the tweet of Professor Christine Patel is the rest of that as well. If you guys want to watch the full testimony from this, youtube.com/COVID-19 inquiry. There's a YouTube channel dedicated to the COVID-19 inquiry. Just simply play today's one. And if you want to listen to the whole thing, not only was Professor Kevin Fong giving testimony, but also was it Patrick Balance? No, the other one, Chris Whitty, I believe it was. Correct me if I'm wrong in the chat, guys, but yeah, one of them gave testimony as well today on that as well. I'm just going to actually just double check myself. That's it, Professor Sir Chris. That's it, Professor Sir Chris Whitty. Here, I'm just going to show just before. I'm just going to show this piece here from the BBC as well. Don't worry, it's not a video, guys. It's just the article. So, COVID was like a daily terror attack. The doctor tells COVID inquiry. I'm just going to come down to this bit here. Political choice. English Chief Medical Officer Sir Chris Whitty, who was next to speak at the inquiry, said he agreed with the evidence very powerfully laid out by Professor Fong. He said that NHS hospitals in England entered the pandemic in the early 2020s with a very low level of beds in intensive care compared to similar high-income countries. That's a political choice. It's a system configuration choice, but it's a choice, he told the inquiry. Therefore, you have less in reserve when major emergencies happen, even if it's short of something on the scale of COVID. So Chris suggested that countries like the UK had no alternative but to impose lockdown and other social restrictions to avoid a catastrophe amount of pressure on the healthcare system. So yeah, so like I said, if you want to listen to today's, obviously you can check out the and check it out on YouTube or youtube.com/the COVID-19 inquiry at that one. I did obviously listen to all the videos for those wondering, and it was incredibly brutal to listen to the other ones. But although I did throw that on you guys, I know I did throw that one on some of you guys because it was quite a hard one. And I do apologize if I did throw that on you guys without giving you a warning, because I should have done. But I think it was in hindsight. But I think it was just needed to hear it from the professor, from the professor himself, from the doctor who's actually been there, seeing that, hearing that, being told the descriptions of what's actually been happening, and not just obviously what's happening in the large hospitals, but in the smaller hospitals. But yeah,
testimony is
brutal.
not said. Testimony is not said to go unheard.
Yeah. Thank you, number 3, for the £2 super chat. Nothing will be done. It will only get worse. I hope not, number 3. I hope not. I appreciate it. I hope you're doing well. Thank you for your support. I appreciate that.
I can't honestly. I can't agree with.
Yeah, I think we're all in agreement with that one, Stephen Banker. Considering, you know,
I can't agree with with number 3's comments so much though, because it that says to me that there is nothing will ever get better. But like, whenever someone says that, like, that's basically them saying that evolution doesn't exist. Everything evolves. Everything changes in one way or another. It could get worse, but it could very well get better. I'm more than willing. It's not like we got rid of smallpox. And that was with worse technology.
I'm sorry I brought back those memories, Alison Keir. I'm sorry. I think it's really important to put this into a perspective as well, guys. I think it's infuriating that we did not have the inquiry sooner. Because we should have had this inquiry a lot sooner, but the Conservatives kept delaying, which I think was really infuriating. It's good that this is all coming out, that it's coming out in this inquiry, and it's being laid out to people. Yes, I understand that I do understand the criticism of some of the bereaved are wanting to speak more about it. I totally understand that. I really, really do. And I think the chairman has. It's tough enough as it is to do this inquiry. I mean, it's bloody hard, guys. It really, really is. But I honestly want to sit here and tell you guys that yes, there will be criminal charges. Yes, the fuckers responsible will be thrown in jail and keys locked behind them. But the reality is, I just don't see that happening. This is what I want to happen, at least the bare minimum. I want an acceptance, because we don't have it right now. We're not hearing it enough right now. An acceptance that people are suffering from long COVID and not enough is being done to help those people who are still suffering from long COVID, people who still can catch COVID, and ensuring that we have the resources we need if we ever have another pandemic again, to cover ourselves. Not just whether it is COVID or whether it's a different kind of disease, a different kind of pandemic, to have the National Healthcare Service to have the resources it needs when it comes. As of right now, we know it doesn't have that. We also need to make sure that we learn from our mistakes. This is one of the biggest criticisms of both political parties when it comes to governments. You know, Grenfell, the blood scandal, the post office scandal. I mean, the list can go on and on and on, and I'm sure you guys can bring them up in the chat. But my God, politicians need to stop shoving these at the side and trying to throw it onto another political party, because that's exactly how I felt about when the blood scandal was coming up, and the Conservatives were talking about, oh yeah, we're going to make sure they get paid and everything. Straight away, it hit me as just like, they're just saying that because they're just going to throw it and make it be Labour's problem, rather than actually deal with the problem. And this is the thing, like, and I know some people will have a go at Labour of saying that, oh, they should be getting all these payouts done. They should be making sure these are all done as quickly as possible. And yeah, I get that, but
3
like,
months. 3 months they've been in.
Yeah, it not just that, but it takes time for governments to sort these things out. It really does take time to sort these things out. I generally mean this. I don't expect by the end of this parliament, I don't expect Labour to get every single one of these inquiries, like all the compensation, everything that these guys, most of what these outcomes come from. I don't expect it to get everything to be done and rosy. But if they get a good chunk of things that lessons are learned, and that laws are brought in, bills that are brought in based off these inquiries, that enshrines and ensures that these things don't happen again. If Labour imposes that, then that's a good step. It's better than leaving it on the fucking desk, which the Conservatives have also been doing. I'm not saying that Labour are going to do that, but I want to see progress. I think that's one thing I definitely want to see, progress.
I think
we need to see progress.
I think we're, like, by the end of the parliament, that some progress will have been made. I mean, they've already gone on about the post office payments and the blood scandal payments. I mean, there's still a campaign going on for the WASPy women as well. You know, the amount there's a campaign for the disabled people who've been left, those who've become disabled because of the Tories, you know, destroying the NHS, and that now have problems. There's I've been hearing about a campaign, I can't remember the name. I've been hearing about a campaign that is pushing government on this to make to bring up more support for people who've suffered because the NHS was being broken up.
Yeah, that's a really important point to remind people. Yeah, because I've said this before in the past, and I'll remind you guys of this. Yeah, in the several years leading up to COVID, and this is a fact, and it's really not that hard to look it up. Every single, like, the last 4 or 5 winters in the run up to 2020 when the pandemic struck. I remember it. BBC, Sky, Channel 4, they were reporting hospitals being overwhelmed because of the cold and the flu and that. And
people dying in hospital in the hospital hallways.
This was happening every year under the Conservatives, and you had like the likes of Matt Hancock, and who were the other fucking useless health secretaries?
Jeremy Hunt.
Jeremy Hunt, Victoria Atkins, she was fucking useless. Pardon my language. Matt Hancock, Jeremy Hunt was the worst. He was the worst. Like, Matt Hancock was bloody awful throughout the whole COVID, absolutely. But
I can't remember who was health secretary under Cameron, because the guy who was health secretary under Cameron was
was it Ian Duncan Smith? I think Stephen Banker. Was it Ian Duncan Smith?
I thought he was in charge of.
I'm sure someone will highlight.
I thought that was DWP, but whoever it was,
Jeremy Hunt for a large part. Jeremy Hunt for a large part made life a living hell. Made life a living hell for our National Healthcare Service.
And those who rely on it.
David Blase, when it came to the blood scandal, Dame Diana Johnson kept hounding either Tichi Schlorcake at PMQs and Paolo Penny in business of the house to get on with it and sort it out since last year. And they just kept ignoring it, didn't they? Yeah, you covered plenty of it, David Blase, and the frustration that I imagine that you were going through, obviously highlighting all this. Yeah. Well, Jeremy Hunt was a health secretary for a long period. Yeah, for a long period. Yeah, he was.
The breaking up of, I mean, the fact that when I moved from Plymouth back over to the other side of Devon to Torbay again, like it took 6 months to a year for them to send my medical records from Plymouth to Torbay. I'm like, what? Are we in the 90s or something? No, yeah. It's because the Tories, because of just how much the Tories split up the NHS. It's bloody ridiculous.
Now I want to stress before anybody says anything. I have not seen this story in any other newspaper article, so do take it with a pinch of salt, guys. This came out today from them saying that COVID is on the rise as expected. Say England has capitulated to the virus. Take it with a pinch of salt, this headline. I'm not going to cover it, but if you see it elsewhere, do highlight it to me on Discord. I hope it's not true, but time will tell, obviously, if there is. But I just wanted to put that one on there. And yeah, okay. And Stephen Banker's absolutely right. COVID never went away. Absolutely. It never really went away.
It was identified in Germany. I'm just having a look.
Okay.
And this one's also this one was from the BBC as well. So, it was identified in Germany in June. Cases of the XEC variant have since emerged in the UK, US, Denmark, and several other countries.
There's always going to be new variants of COVID, and it's just a case of making sure that we are keeping ourselves immune from them. But yeah, that one obviously says it says England, obviously there. So as Alistair Kears just pointed out here, not in Scotland, NHS staff are getting the COVID jab and flu jag in October, and rightfully so. Don't take any chances. Don't take any chances. Yeah, it's
because they made it so you have to pay for the fucking jab here in England. I can't get the jab because I can't quite often I can't bloody afford it.
Yeah, it's frustrating. It's frustrating.
And just as a pointer, by the way, there are, like myself, people out in Britain who never got called up for the virus for the vaccine, and are still waiting for a vaccine, and are now being told, like myself, that you got to pay for it. This is a big problem. Just wanted to highlight this because I've not heard it being spoken about anywhere else. And again, I'm not against vaccines. It's like my mum, my brother, everyone else around me says, I've been waiting for years for call to go and have the vaccine. Never got one.
Yeah, it's been
and when I rung up during the pandemic to get them, we'll call you back, and they never did. But with other people, when other people tried to get it, they got sorted out. But it seems that there are many like myself who aren't actually anti-vaxxers, but they just weren't able to get hold of the vaccine and are now being told they have to pay for the vaccine if they want to have the vaccine. So it's another problem related to it.
Yeah.
Related to this, where I think it's really going under the radar.
Yeah, I agree with that, Mad Monk. It was the government at fault. Yeah, it was government at fault. The problem is that it's infuriating when governments make mistakes, but when it comes to people's lives and there's such a lack of accountability, it's really infuriating. And there was already distrust in politics, but I think that distrust really dropped off a cliff after COVID. It really did, especially Partygate. Like, really, really has hurt a lot of people's trust and trust in politics. That really did hurt.
a lot like whilst it's not as large in numbers as we'd like more and more people are coming around to the fact that they were lied to when it came to Brexit.
Yeah.
That has actually also caused a lot of mistrust with politics, including with Labour.
Yeah. So one well, which you want to go for? Right, I'll give you a choice of two things. We'll go either towards the Middle East, or we can talk about the Conservative conference coming up on Sunday and what's going to happen there.
Fuck the Tories. What's going on with West Asia?
West Asia? You mean Middle East? Sorry.
No. It is. It's West Asia is more correct because
West Asia.
Middle East is a term that we ascribe to the area, whereas Western Asia is actually a term that's been more commonly used from people within the area. So, and given that it is actually the west part of Asia, kind of makes sense.
Okay, so I'm going to go to Al Jazeera for you guys. Don't worry, I'm not going to play any videos. So don't worry, I'm not going to play any videos. This is the latest Israel attacking Lebanon. Strikes ongoing despite ceasefire call. As you guys may or may not have heard, there is talk of preparing a land invasion from Israel into the south of Lebanon to allegedly. I'm just going to they're saying they're going to target the Hezbollah missiles and targets that they are claiming they're obviously firing from inside Lebanon. I have to close my eyes to get my train of thought about this. Sorry, into Israel, because obviously their argument is that the people of Israel, that the citizens of Israel who live in the north of Israel can't stay there because it's not safe, and so their intention is to make it safe for them once again, and that's why that's their justification for doing what they're doing. The Hezbollah's argument and Lebanon's point of view on all this is that, well, we wouldn't be doing this against you if you would just get a bloody ceasefire inside Gaza. This is where it's all stemmed from. Everyone's been kicking and screaming. You guys have heard me a number of times about how I feel about this, as well as cover it. I cover stories on what's been happening in Middle East on Rumble, on the Rumble page, which link is down below if you're not following me on that, so you can also see there as well. We had obviously last week we had the brutal. You still have to stress the word alleged, because they still have never confirmed Israel that they did it, but we're 95% sure that they are the ones responsible for the pages going off on Tuesday, for the walkie-talkies going off on targeted Hezbollah targets of them. And then on, I believe it was Monday and Tuesday, where they literally did so many airstrikes that just under 500 people in the south of Lebanon lost their lives. They were not given enough time to get out. There was not enough time. There was not enough warning from Israel's point of view to allow people to get out as well. That's a very important point. I have to stress that, because a lot of people obviously were hit as it was happening as well. Pagan, what do you want to say about what's your position about what's actually happening with Israel and Lebanon specifically on this?
Well, I mean, just current news for a second. Israel are carrying out strikes in Beirut in northern Lebanon tonight.
Okay.
That they're smashing into the capital, the literal capital of Lebanon right now with precision missiles. We all know how precise Israel are with their precision missiles, but yeah, no. This to me is Hezbollah. I mean, they're not great themselves, are they? I mean, they're like Hamas. They're Islamofascist, but this again is being sparked by Israel being far right racists. I don't know how much more blunt I can make it. Really, like Netanyahu he knows there's not much more he can do with Gaza. There's been strikes into the West Bank. and now they're doing this. I mean, I think Netanyahu's thing is to go to war with Iran. I actually like at this point. I'm getting to a point where I do think that he wants to have a war with Iran because I think his, or at least people like Smotrich and others and Ben Gavir, who back him, are pushing him that way. Because was it today the US came out with another peace plan, and but this time for Lebanon and Israel, and both sides went nah. So I mean, Israel are just going to keep going ahead with this. As far as I'm concerned, they've been as it is. They've been running around Gaza screaming "exterminate" in Hebrew like the Daleks. This is supposed to be, what was it? What do they advertise themselves as? Like the most humane army on the planet. Yeah,
I think the most infuriating thing is the lack of accountability is the accountability from the international community on Israel is the biggest gripe that everyone has. Hence why there's been a lot of criticism at the United Nations, and a call for a fundamental change of the United Nations and the system that it has. There's been a lot of speeches from the world leaders, some very powerful speeches. I thought South Africa's president had a brilliant speech. If you haven't heard the speech, I do recommend checking it out on Politics Joe. His speech was absolutely brilliant. I thought that was really, really powerful. Like we saw yesterday, Erdogan, Turkish president, I thought his speech was very important as well. And given that the fundamental system of the way the UN works, obviously they've all been, there's been a lot of strong criticism at Russia and their appearance there, yes, but considering that Israel are kind of getting a buy on everything because the United States keeps giving them a buy because they are one of the five nations that have veto powers. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that system needs to go. That veto needs to go for all nations, not just the US. All five. It needs to be more of case of it has to be. It's not democratic.
I think originally the veto was brought up as it was brought in because France and England and the United Kingdom knew they were going to have a lot less power than China, Russia, or America. And so, we are part of that five, us and France, but because we are lesser powers than the other three, we went it was like a way to give us some power, and it's really worked against us.
Well, in this situation, it has been absolutely disastrous.
It's not just worked against us; worked against the whole world.
Because it gives Israel free reign. That's the problem. And the thing is that if they didn't have these vetoes, it would put the United States and other Western nations in a very precarious, even more difficult position, because then they're questioning about their how much they comply with international law would be put into question if they're not prepared to, for example, put Netanyahu under arrest, for example.
I think League of Nations falling to pieces in the 1920s and 1930s was partly what led to the Second World War. And as I spoke to you earlier on, I'm worried that, Netanyahu's not wanting to stop.
Yeah.
Putin,
700 people. I haven't seen that number. 700 people have been killed in Lebanon this week.
Yeah.
And that was just under.
And now you're going to have to include the ones killed in tonight's strikes in the capital. I mean, Beirut, wasn't it Beirut that got hit by where that massive explosion went off at the beginning of the pandemic?
I believe so, yes.
Yes,
there was the
and then Israel thinks it's just
there was the famous explosion that there was a video, wasn't there? Someone's video went off in the sea.
One of the largest non-nuclear explosions in modern history. And now Israel are chucking missiles into the very same place. They don't care for human lives. Anyone who tries to tell me that the IDF is the most humane army in the world I'm going to rip him to pieces with words.
Lebanon says the death toll from Israel's assaults across the country hit 1,400 and 1,540 since last October as well.
It's disgusting.
Interesting. Daily Blast say, I'm not conspiratorial at all, but I do get the feeling that Benjamin Netanyahu is also trying to influence the US election in favor of Trump, with his timing on doing this. I agree. I definitely feel like Trump is definitely more favorable to being the benefit of Israel if Trump does win the election.
I mean, we've also got
we were saying that earlier, Steve McMahon. Yeah, that's what keeps happening. The United States keeps vetoing on their behalf. Yeah, because they're.
People also got to remember that like 6 to 8 months ago, like it also, you know, Bibi looked like he was going to get kicked out in the end because the public were turning against him. Well, if you look at the most recent polls in Israel, his support is growing for him again. This is bad, really bad.
Yeah, China and Russia have been helping out each other with vetoes as well. That's another thing. So
that's what I mean. Like the vetoes were brought in really to help us and France, because even though China was ruled by Mao at the time, and we all know, well, most of us know what happened when Mao tried his Great Leap Forward. They were still going to be seen like it was still seen that China would overtake France and the UK eventually, which they have done, which they've caught at the very least they've caught up, and in some areas they've overtaken us. They're definitely more powerful in the world than either France or the UK. But it's again, as Zhao just said, it's for a time. The veto system is for a time of about 70 years ago.
Yeah.
It comes back to evolution again. You know, things need to evolve. Everything evolves. Everything to do with humans evolves. And it's like when you were saying earlier, people upset with Labour because Labour have changed. The political parties evolve. The Tories have evolved. You know, you wouldn't have thought so, but yeah, the Tories have evolved over the last 300 years that they've been around.
Yeah.
So it's not always going to stay the same. And the UN, I mean, again, the forerunner to the UN was the League of Nations. And the breakup that ended up being useless. I mean, the League, Japan was brought to the League of Nations for attacking Manchuria, and League of Nations did nothing about it, which is again like what is partly what brought about the situation, the circumstances for the Second World War, because Nazi Germany knew they weren't going to be pulled up for it. Which is why I do reckon that we are possibly on the route to another world war.
Well, Graham Sharps did say we entered a new phase of a Cold War, didn't he? When he was Defense Secretary.
One of the only true things he might have said.
Yeah, one of the only true things he might have said. Yeah, I think that's a fair thing to say. Guys, we're going to wrap up in 10 minutes. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to drop any questions you'd like. What do you make? What do you expect? Obviously, about while we wait for some questions to come in, and you don't need to super chat to ask questions. By the way, guys, just literally ping myself or One Angry Pagan, and I'll try and bring them up for us. What are you expecting anything out of the Conservative conference? Who do you think is going to be the final two? Do you think it's going to come down to out of the four candidates? So we have so there is, where's my list? I forgot them. It's James Cleverly, Kemi Bakkenot, Robert Jenrick, and who's the other one? Oh God,
Tom Tugendhat.
No, is he still in?
Yeah, Tom Tugendhat's still in there. He's one of the four.
It's supposed to be. Is it Tom Tugendhat? Oh, that's it then. So Kemi Bakkenot, Robert Jenrick, they're the two favourites, and then you have James Cleverly and Tom Tugendhat. Then
Tom Tugendhat.
Yeah, so those are the final four, I believe. Yeah.
If I was, I mean, I don't know. I mean, do I expect anything like major to come out of the Tory conference? Not really. I mean, this was a wonderful bit of information that I found out in the politics social stream on Monday, when Mike Goldsworthy and that were there, and Femi and that was there, because someone in the crowd who's to do with the Movement for Europe campaign said that there are more Labour MPs that are that have signed up to the Movement for Europe than there are Tory MPs. That is how little the Tory party matters to me right now. It's like when there are more people within this group wanting to go back into Europe than there are actual Tory MPs. Like, I think it's almost like the Tories after the last time Labour won. Like, was it Ian Duncan Smith became leader, and who was the other one? You had the IDS and another one, and they were both useless.
Yeah, they were. Oh, God, my brain's a bit fried. I think this.
If I was a Tory, I'd want. If I was a Tory, the furthest I would consider the furthest I'll let in this hypothetical, the furthest I'll let myself go right would be centre right. And if I was to make myself into a centre right Tory, the most attractive to me would probably be Tom Tugendhat. Yes, I know he's chatted about the ECHR. They've all done that, all of them, every single one of them. So
he's been accused of just saying that just to appease the right anyway.
That's exactly what he's done, because you look at Tom Tugendhat's history, he's not a far right politician. He's an obvious Tory. Don't get me wrong. Like in real life, no, I wouldn't I don't care about him. But like compared to the rest of them, if I was a Tory, I want him in. If I wanted to fix my party anyway after such a shocking election, but no, who do I think is going to win? Well, I don't think Jimmy Not So Cleverly is going to get anywhere. Although if some Tories are being tactical, they might push him to go against either Jenrick or Badenoch instead of having Jenrick and Badenoch go against each other. But that's supposing that's actually supposing that the Tories actually have some clever members in their party left. So probably Jenrick and Badenoch. I mean, if Tom Tugendhat gets through, I will be amazed.
I don't think he's going any further than this. The thing is that the party hasn't changed at all since they've been out. They've not done any reflecting whatsoever. It's almost as if they're in denial about themselves of being out, and like everything they've done has been like it's been fine. Like we didn't do anything wrong. Like that's the thing. Like they act like they're not sorry for the thing. They tried to argue that they've left the argument of they've left the country in a better place. Like you keep hearing that from Rishi Sunak on PMQs, which just drives you absolutely up the wall when you hear that. It really is infuriating. I generally believe it's going to be down to Kemi and Robert Jenrick, simply because they both had an audience with Rupert Murdoch. The other two did not. Possibly.
I mean, that's probably a big part of it, to be fair. But I also do reckon that there's just too many nutcases in the party. I don't think there's enough people left in the party to make that an intelligent decision. I mean, this conference, this Tory conference is just going to be a spectacle of madness. I mean, like Darren there with the who's going to have the maddest speech. I'm like,
I think Kemi.
Wow, I mean, take your pick.
No, Kemi will have the maddest speech. I think out of all of them will be her.
Ooh, I think if I mean,
well,
you never know, Liz Truss,
but I also think
she's not an MP. Liz Truss might turn up, and
Liz Truss will turn up at that conference. I'm 90% sure.
If she comes out with another like a live speech this time, because we've all watched the one where she came out the other day and was like, yeah, no, my MIDI budget was the right thing to do, and madness.
She still has popularity among the members.
If she comes out on on a fringe event and says this live at conference, that will be the maddest speech.
Problem is, guys, is that because she's popular, she's still popular amongst the Conservative members, which is why she will be there, and I'm pretty sure they may give her a speech there.
Nigel will be there. He's got a real party. He's got another party that, because last time at the last year at the Tory conference, you had Nigel Farage actually turn up to the conference because people were like, "Oh, Nigel could be like leader of the party," and then, but this year, no, I don't think that's going to be the case this year.
I think it would be very weird if he was to turn up at this conference. I don't think because he's not just because he's an MP now, but he's also the leader of Reform UK that have actually like establishing that. But I generally would be shocked if he turned up. One person that would not surprise me turning up would be Lee Anderson, even though he should not be there. I can see him turning up there. I generally can. I know it sounds daft.
Told to go away. Like Lee Anderson turns up. I used to be part of the party. I was like, yeah, but you fucked off, didn't you? So fuck off.
I could generally see it. But I think whoever will give the madness a speech daily, I think it's not going to be the candidates. I think it's just going to be somebody. It could possibly be Liz Truss. It could be another. There's plenty of insane mad.
Tommy Robinson
there's plenty of mad conservatives who could turn up. There's plenty of mad conservatives who obviously lost the boot. Jacob Rees-Mogg obviously will be there as well. He'll be there as well. Plenty of them. Boris Johnson. I don't know if he will be there. It would be, could he give a speech? Well, he gets paid to do speeches, so he could potentially be there as well. It's definitely going to be interesting. I think is on that.
It's going to be interesting to the point of like who's won the race, who won the election for the police and crime commissioner. Like that's the level of interest that it's at the moment because they don't have any importance anymore.
Yeah. Who do you think will win the US election? Steve asks you. How do you rate Kamala Harris?
I think Kamala's going to win. But I think that I'm not the biggest fan of Kamala Harris. I mean, if I had a personal choice, Bernie Sanders is my pick. And yes, he's older than Trump and Biden.
Yeah,
but I think he's older than Biden anyway. But he's just got more energy and he's more intelligent than both of them put together. But I mean, Harris was a bit weak on climate stuff, but that's because of the political climate in America. I don't think she's not coming across as against the green transition. I'm not getting that feeling off her. It's not as strong as I would like. I do like how she keeps pushing the Project 2025 stuff, like constantly pushing it, despite how many times Trump denies that he's anything to do with it. The people who wrote it up were people who worked for him and who still work for him. His sons back to Project 2025. But Trump might get more. Trump's gonna have more problems really because one, his legal problems are continuing to suck out funding from his party, and two, his running mate is useless for him. At least with Mike Pence, he had someone who was
competent.
Yeah. JD Vance is an utter joke. He's more, I can't believe I'm saying this, he's more of a joke than Liz Truss.
That's debatable is what I'll say. I don't know how serious of a question is this from Aki's Mad, but if you want, after a year and a half, it's up for and nothing has changed. What will be your next move? I'm assuming he's implying when Labour implode. I think that's what he's implying.
He's like nothing's going like for me. It's a case of I'm going to be continuing to do what I have been doing in pushing the environmental causes that and biodiversity causes that I've specifically gone down on. Because again, you build too broad of a base, you don't know which way to go. But that's even if they get to a year and a half and nothing's changed. I mean,
yeah,
we've already spoken about a number of fundamental changes that Labour are wanting to bring in tonight. The workers' rights stuff, that's not small.
Yeah.
The green tech stuff, that's not small. We haven't even spoken about the National Wealth Fund.
No, we haven't.
So, these are big things. So and nothing's changed and nothing's going to change Jackie's. I don't agree with you on that one. Do I think that Labour could implode by a year and a half later? Possibly. If that happens, I will. I do want to see Ed Miliband as Prime Minister personally. But this would be the best chance for him to become Prime Minister because he doesn't have to actually fight the country for it.
Guys, we've gone well over 2 hours anyway, so I'm going to end with this very important question from Daily Blase. Who's going to do the Poundland Penny fight speech? Well, it's not going to be myself or One Angry Pagan with this one, because in fact it's going to be where is it? It's going to be where is it? I'm going to make sure the audio is on for it. It's going to be Penny herself is going to say it for you.
Stand up and fart. Stand up and fart. Because when you stand up and fart, the person beside you stands up and farts. And when our
never happened to me.
Stands up and farts, the nation stands up and farts. And when our nation stands up and farts, other nations stand up and fart. And they stand up and fart for the things upon which the entire progress of humanity depends. Freedom.
Dear.
That is what conservatives do. That is what this nation does.
Oh, yeah, with enough baked beans.
Bring hope. Stand up and fart. Stand up and fart. Thank you, conference.
Classic one by Lee Korn there, guys. So yeah, Daily Blase reminded me of that video, so I wanted to get that for you guys there. So One Angry Pagen, I want to say thank you very much. Yeah, we don't. Yeah, obviously. Speaking of the Snowflake show, obviously I'll be myself and Lee Korn next week here on Thursday, guys. So do join us for that. It will be very interesting indeed. It's been a long time since me and Lee Korn have done it'll be a sort of Snowflake show, but sort of not as well. Just be a chat as well.
I hope we get the Adrian Childs bit.
I will discuss that with him. I will discuss that with him for you guys. Guys, I want to say a massive thank you to everyone who has come along. Thank you guys for those for Mad Monk and Alistair Keir for the gifted memberships. Thank you, Alistair Keir, for the £5 super chat as well. Did not have to give that. Yeah, when I said that, I was just joking, buddy. But thank you guys all for your comments. I really appreciate and giving your time to listen to us talk about what's happening and the latest news as well. One Angry Pagan, thank you so much for coming in. I really appreciate that. Just as a reminder, I just want to let you guys know, as not just you, but obviously Daily Blase, who's still here as well. I'll remind you guys, at some point, not in October, it might be early November, I'm going to try and do a Snowflake roundtable featuring several YouTubers, so up to 3 for at least try one episode, which will feature multiple YouTubers where we'll discuss multiple things going on. That's not just obviously news and politics as well, but I think that will be a really interesting discussion. Obviously, I don't have, apart from Lee Korn, I don't have anyone else lined up next month. So I may recall One Angry Pagan again. I may even recall Daily Blase again, or even Jenny. But I obviously I've got other things going on as well, guys. But just before you guys go, just a quick reminder: tomorrow, Daily Blase is doing a live stream at Friday 6 p.m. and then at 7 o'clock, guys, I will be going live with my own Snowflake conflicts as I go into Max's live stream as well. So do check out both our live streams as well. If you're not subscribed already to One Angry Pagan's YouTube channel, please do so at youtube.com/One Angry Pagan. Link for it is down below. Also, check out who's been lurking in the chat. I know he has been Dave McGuinness of the YouTube channel, The Two Davies, as well. He's been doing Monday to Friday morning newspaper reviews at 10:30 as well. So do check out his stuff as well, guys. yeah, the gang have been here. They've been here. I don't want to. I can't turn around, or can I turn around without knocking anything over? Hold on. Yeah, I just about can.
Angry Badger says, "Hey."
Yeah. Hello, Angry Badger. Oh, there you go. Got plushie there as well. So, yep. So, yep. Very nice stuff, guys. Yep. So take care, guys. Enjoy the rest of your evening, whatever you guys have got planned. And I've just got to set myself up for pressing the intro. So just before I go, guys, just one last thing. If you haven't already, please hit the like button. We greatly appreciate it. Share this across social media so others are notified of this live stream. If you haven't subscribed to our channels, please do so because it really does help support us. And if you want to go one step further, financially support me and the work that I do on this channel, you can do so by becoming a YouTube member for just as little as 99p, or join me on Rumble or Patreon for exclusive content on those platforms. So thank you all so much for watching, and we hope to catch you all very, very soon. Bye-bye.